ChatGPT in action. I have been, ever since ChatGPT came out a year and a half ago, I've been, using it every single day. It's really exciting. I love talking about it. So I've been working in the AI and automation space recently, and wanted just to kind of keep talking about it. And people have asked me a lot of questions about stuff. So I figured I'd do a webinar. So thank you for everyone for being here. Make sure I'm not muted. Okay. That would be hilarious if I was muted the whole time. So going to keep this brief. It should be under 45 minutes. So I wanted to kind of leave some time for questions, but I've got nothing after this, so I can stay on for as long. And then afterwards, I'll give everyone my email and info if anyone has any questions or follow-ups or anything. I'll also send out a recording of this afterwards. But we're going to kind of just give an intro to ChatGPT and LLMs, large language models, to kind of just get everyone on the same page. If you have an understanding of it, this should be a recap for you. Maybe you'll learn something new about it. In terms of the whole presentation, there's definitely something here for everyone, daily users or people that have just kind of heard of ChatGPT. So we'll start off with just kind of the basics: AI, ChatGPT, large language models. We'll go into like prompting, what that is, what that means. And this will be mostly service level stuff. And then the exciting stuff about ChatGPT and automation that I've been working with a lot. And then some of my favorite tips and tricks. And then if there's time, we'll go into a Q&A. So just quickly about me, I own the agency Center Digital. I started it in 2020. I was 7 years old in 2000. I've been doing digital marketing for 10 years, and I've overseen over $100 million of e-commerce sales throughout that time. The most exciting thing recently for me has been tech stack and AI tools. I've built that within companies spanning from kind of startups with a few people to marketing teams of over 200. And then most recently, I've been doing AI training and implementation for individuals, teams, and executives. But I'm boring. That's me and Zion. So we'll get into the cool stuff. So basics of kind of ChatGPT. And so LLM stands for large language model. What that is, large language model, you can think of as the engine that runs the tools that you're familiar with, like ChatGPT. The best kind of analogy that I've seen here is that the LLM is the engine inside of a car, and the prompt and like the tool like ChatGPT and stuff is the steering wheel and kind of the non-engine parts of the cars that you can see and control. So I don't know much about cars. I know, the basics of internal combustion engines, and they need gasoline to work, but I do consider myself a really good driver. So what prompting does, and kind of learning about prompting and the inputs for these large language models to get you the best output, is going to be, making you a better driver, and leaving the mechanics and all that stuff to, the engineers and all the people that build these large language models. So it's pretty straightforward. The prompt is the input, the large language model is the engine, and then the text, or which we're going to be focusing on today, video now, images, a bunch of other stuff, is the output. So that's kind of the basics of LLMs. Focusing more on kind of what the LLM is, artificial intelligence, like we can go into like the definitions of AI, which is basically computers doing things that mimic human intelligence. So what they do is they understand human-like text. So we don't need to speak a computer language like Java, HTML, Python to now get these outputs. It understands human text, and it can output human text. It's trained on vast amount of data. So if I read a book, I can then go and answer questions about the book. I'm also, I'm not going to remember every single page, but the book is kind of the input, and then the output is, me telling someone about the book or someone asking me questions about that book. What LLMs are is that, but times a million. They've taken like just an unimaginable amount of data across, like from the internet and just from everywhere, and they've loaded it in, and now they can access it. So, think of it as reading a book and being able to kind of answer questions about it, and then multiply it by a billion. So predicts and generates text. My favorite way to kind of make this relatable and understandable is we've been seeing this in Google search for a long time. So when you go to type in Google, and I guarantee everyone on here has, you start off with what is the best, and then you'll see Google start filling it in. And that's based on all the history and data it has of the most common searches. So it's basically that, but again, times, a million, because it has a ton more information, and it's doing that just on a much larger scale. So all of the outputs it gets, it's figuring out what word will logically come next based on all of the data that it has been inputted into it. And then, yeah, it's used in these applications like chatbots, virtual assistants, content creation tools, which is a whole other thing we can go into. So these are some of the popular ones. I'll kind of be focusing the most on ChatGPT just because that's what I use the most and what I like. But Gemini, Claude are other models. There's some differences between each. Some of them can search the internet, some of them can't. There's different costs to them, and a bunch of different stuff. But they essentially do very similar things, especially for how I use them. So talking about prompts, which is kind of the focus of what's really going to help better your experience with these. There's some important things to note. You want to definition of prompt engineering, the art and science of crafting effective input prompts to guide AI models to generate desired and accurate outputs. So it's basically practicing and training yourself to get the best output possible. My favorite thing about ChatGPT and these LLMs is that it moved the emphasis from the answers to the questions. Schools hated it because kids could just get the answers to everything. They could have it write essays for them and everything. But I think it's pretty exciting in terms of the education system, where it now moves the emphasis from memorizing and reciprocate or just regurgitating things you've memorized to asking the right questions and learning how to ask the right questions and really critically thinking. So that's my favorite part about all of this. These are some kind of tips here. Is you want to be clear and specific. You want to give it context and give it examples. And then whether you're redoing the prompt, if you didn't like the output or want to change something, or just talking to and having a conversation, no one's going to get the right prompt the first time for everything. It's going to take some iteration. And I'll go into some easy to remember frameworks for prompting. So this is a bad prompt, or it's a basic prompt, right? Write an email about a new product. Like, it's not specific, it's not clear, it's going to give you something very generic, and it's not going to really be helpful to you. But what you do want is to be clear and specific. So write a marketing email to announce the launch of our new EcoClean vacuum cleaner. You want to provide context, use examples, ask direct questions, and like I mentioned, you can iterate and refine the prompt, whether it's by editing the prompt after the output, or having it be the next input that you do, just to ask it to revise. So I don't need to read this whole thing to everyone, but you can see it's clear. There's examples, there's questions. You're telling it exactly what you want from it, and that's going to really get you the best outputs here. So some frameworks to remember, or that are good to use, are the CARE, which is context or challenge, action, result, and then elaborate or examples. The TF one is going to be role, task, and format, and then the TAG, tag, task, action, goal. So they all kind of accomplish the same thing, but these are some easy to remember and easy to build out ones. So I'll give some examples. The role, telling it you're an expert Facebook ad marketer. The task, you want it to promote a new line of fitness apparel. And apologize for the dog barking in the background. And the format, you tell exactly what you want from it. Create a storyboard outlining all this stuff. Another example of the framework is the tag, the task you want it to do, define the steps, the action you want it to take, and the goal that you're trying to get to. And here are some examples of kind of how you can use these in each one of these different industries that I saw some of the attendees were part of. So for real estate, a quick example to think of is going to be, I'd say, product list or like listings. So you can either go directly to ChatGPT or create systems to put in the input of what it is, where it is, and then any relevant information, and then it can write up a description for you. You can customize it based on who the audience is. Like, if it's, business or like real, what do they call in real estate? Commercial or residential. And you can customize all these things and it'll have you write your product descriptions, fintech AI chatbots was the first thing that I'd think of for fintech to help kind of prioritize different leads or sales. So if you can have it read your emails, you can have it have a chatbot where it will categorize leads for you as, high intent or low intent, or how likely they are to convert, or the value that they can bring, and it can prioritize those for you. What else did I put in here? For education, you could have it build out different not credentials, criteria, or like, what is it? Curriculums based on certain struggles that students are having. Sales and marketing is what I have the most experience with. I've built out automations using ChatGPT where, based on inputs for a new lead, it can generate a customized email to that lead that you can then, I can put it directly into Gmail, which I'll show an example of later here, of how it can draft up emails based on all the information you have from that lead, and then edit it, send it out. And then operations, demand generation, lots of tools here for those. Operations, one of my favorite things to do is just internal, notifying people for certain things, summarizing tasks. You can upload a transcript of a Zoom of a meeting you have if you have lots of meetings, and you can have it summarize it. You can have it tell you all of the action items, all of the tasks, who they're assigned to, and easily organize it there. Tons of different opportunities here with that. So jumping into ChatGPT and automation, a couple of the big tools I like to use are Zapier. I've been using Zapier for almost 10 years now. Before LLMs were plugged into it, it was super useful for connecting different tools that we were using in marketing teams without any code. So Zapier is fantastic. And now with the addition of ChatGPT, you can really just injected steroids into this tool. Here, I'll pull up something that I built here the other day that I was mentioning earlier. So this automation is triggered when there's a new contact in HubSpot. It then sends the information of the new contact to ChatGPT. I gave it the name, the job title, the company, the city, and then I told it who I was. I told it what the goal was, and then I sent it here to my Gmail to draft up an email to that person based on all that information. So right now with CRM tools that I've used, and this isn't new to ChatGPT, or you can always kind of plug in, first name, company, all that stuff. But what this does is it can actually write an email based on all this information, not just plug that information to a template. And that's really what I'm seeing as the future of kind of marketing and sales, is customizing the experience and reaching more audiences, and having audiences kind of expect that type of experience. Going here, another tool that I've used that's actually fairly new, is founded by someone I follow on TikTok, actually, is called Cassidy. And Cassidy is similar to Zapier, but the cool part about Cassidy is that you can train it on your brand and your voice, and you can use it to recall any information. So what I can do is I can upload all my brand guidelines. I can upload all the company information I have, all of the new employee handbook or anything. And then I can easily have any new employee or anyone reference it, ask the Cassidy chatbot questions about the brand, about the company, about anything, and it has all that information there. So I think that's going to be a huge tool for companies as soon as they adopt it. And yeah, Cassidy's really great. So now going into tips and tricks, and I'm moving pretty fast, so I'll have some time to kind of do some interactive stuff and answer some questions here. But some of my favorite tips and tricks for ChatGPT are going to be what I've found it to be the most useful is like an assistant instead of an employee. And what I mean by that is having it working with it, having a dialogue to get to an output instead of just kind of question and answer. Instead of telling it necessarily what to do, you kind of work with it and have it tell you what it needs from you for the best output. So something that I add to my prompts are going to be, ask me questions you have that will help you provide me with the best output. What that does is, you give it a prompt and it knows what are the most common questions or all the information it needs. And instead of making it up or instead of making it up, it just asks you, and that's going to make the output even better. Another tip and trick that I use is if you're using this for an output like a blog or something that's customer facing or anything external, there's a list I have that I can send to everyone here, is overused words and phrases. It's also easily Googleable. There's phrases like delve that people notice ChatGPT uses a lot, that if you have it remove it, it helps make it sound a little bit more human. There's also humanizers where you can take an output, and if you want it to sound more human, you can do it into that. But what I always recommend, a human approach where you're not just taking an output and sending it out. Like ChatGPT, they call it hallucinates. A hallucination is when it says something that isn't real. And that happens a lot. This is new, it's not perfect. So that's why it's important to always proofread everything that comes out of here before sending it out or publishing it. So an example here that I have to kind of explain a little bit more about that is going to be having it write a blog about my agents. So, give it this prompt and then edit it to ask the questions. I like to do one at a time so I can just kind of answer and have that conversation here. So I did this, and then, asked me about the agency, founded in 2020. Here's what I offer. Here's who I offer it for. And then, ask you about your value propositions, client success stories. So I gave it, a success story I had with National Geographic, service details, talking about what I do. And then, like I mentioned earlier, the target audiences, mission and vision, my approaches and methodology, benefits, everything. And then it goes back and forth. And then eventually I added, under no circumstances will you use any of these words or phrases. And I gave it the list that I have. And then it kind of gave me the conclusion, told it looks good. It gave me this output now of this blog that I wrote with it. So instead of giving it just a one time, hey, write a blog about this agency, it worked with me on this. A friend of mine owns a music publication, and I, instead of, giving it an input on, hey, help me write help me write a blog about this album or this concert I went to. I give it the ask me the questions prompt, and then it goes back and forth, and it's really, my writing assistant instead of my writing employee. So that's tips and tricks number 1 and 2. Number 3, I'm not going to dive into these just for the sake of time, but if you get an output where there's a lot more text than you want, or you want to just kind of get to the answers quickly, add no yapping to the end of your prompt, and it will give you a much more concise answer. Play around with that. That's a lot of fun. Number 5, did I skip 4? I skipped 4. Good job. Number 4/5, training ChatGPT to talk like you. So I've written press releases for companies, and I've used ChatGPT to help me, and I've also uploaded previous press releases from that company to ChatGPT and trained it on that writing style. So this is a prompt I use for that, and that's been pretty cool because it definitely is really good at imitating. Some more tips and tricks on professional and just my personal uses for it. One of my first custom GPTs that I made, and I can go into custom GPTs if we have time, or maybe in a whole other webinar, but custom GPTs are GPTs that you can train for a specific purpose. So this one I've told that I want healthy recipes, always for 2 people. I want, the time it's going to take. I want the nutrition facts. And I did this because when I'm cooking something, I didn't like searching Google and then getting to a recipe website, having to kind of go through all the nonsense it has in there and the ads and everything. I just wanted a recipe. So for dinner tonight if I wanted, I don't know, pancakes. This will, let's see, here we go. Gives me the portion, give me the prep time, the ingredients, and then instructions. There's no fluff there. What it also can do, which I think is really cool. Oh no, I keep skipping forward here. What it can do is if you give it a grocery list, or you can just tell it what it needs, or tell it what you need, it'll turn it into a list. And what you can do is tell it to organize that grocery list by sections of the store where things are going to be close to each other. So then, it'll send you to the produce section, it'll send you to the other sections, and it can help you from having to figure out where everything is in the grocery store or jumping back and forth. Another thing I've done is exercise. So I had it act like a personal trainer, told it my goals, told it that at my gym, there's basic equipment, how much time I want to spend at the gym and how many times a week. And then I wanted it to provide me with exercises that would maximize my time there and help me achieve the goals. And then also, give me some tips from a trainer. So here now I have a 3-day-a-week workout schedule. And if my friends who are gym people or personal trainers, who I know there was at least one on here, is seeing this, hopefully this isn't wrong or terrible. Don't, expect perfection from here, but again, just you can use it as your assistant who is now, a genius and has read every book in every category at your disposal. And then it gives you the some tips here: nutrition, stay hydrated, the basic stuff. What else do I have here? Excel formulas. I am not the best at Excel, and even if it's a basic if formula or anything, or more complicated ones, I've had ChatGPT, help me build out formulas for Excel that have been really helpful. Ad copy. Let's see here. This is the one I'm very familiar with, is Google search ads. So I tell it, I want it to act as the expert digital marketer and copywriter. It's going to be for Google search, the goal, traffic, and purchases. And then I wanted, 5 headlines and descriptions, and then keywords. I told it to ask me questions, right? So it asked me the questions here. I gave it all the answers it had. This is just a fictional Zax hot sauce product. And then it gave me these. Now, I know that there's a character limit for headline and descriptions, so I wanted to make sure that it kept it under, and it did. And then I asked, what are the best practices for character counts? And, it knows, and then it makes adjustments if necessary. So yeah, so now you have your positive and your negative keywords. Some of these negative keywords I would actually move into positive. So again, it's not going to be perfect, but it's going to be a perfect assistant for you. What else do I have? Something cool here is you can convert PDF to text, and you can have it format. So one of the PDFs that I had when I was looking up frameworks, I uploaded it here, and I wanted to put it into, a format that I can either copy and paste or put into Word, and boom, it just reads the PDF and can output this text for you, which is pretty cool in my opinion. And then finally, blogs. So as a digital marketer, blogs and content and social media have been a huge game changer with ChatGPT. And like I mentioned before, with blogs, you want to have that conversation. You want to, utilize your skills and information, and not just, give it a few sentences and expect a really good output. So for this one, I wanted to write a blog that was for a client that I had was selling supplements. I actually went to a website called answerthepublic.com, and that finds the a lot of top Google searches for products. So if I put like supplements, one of the outputs it gave me, or as the most searched phrase, was, will supplements break my fast? So I go, great. So for people searching for that, I wanted a blog I can drive them to on the client's website. So I told it to, make it about this. So it asked me all these questions. I told it to ask me one at a time, answered all these questions, and then it now gave me an output for this. Will supplements break my fast? And I went back and forth with it, tweaking it for SEO best practices for, title, amount of words, types of words are being used and everything. But, now you can output 10, 20 more of these a day, as opposed to, spending, a day doing 1 or 2 if you're lucky. So let me go to questions. Let me see if there's any so far in the chat. Cool. All right, so I see ChatGPT version. So ChatGPT is continuing to build out new versions. So they had 3, 4. Now the one that's available is 4.0. They're different models. They have different capabilities, and they're trained on different data sets. That's kind of going to be the biggest differences. I'm sure there's a ton more, but yeah. No yapping. I hope that wasn't to me because I was talking too much. I got into SEO stuff if you're still here, Michael, but there's definitely a ton, like a bunch of more ways to use it. After it outputs a blog, you can always ask it, what it did to make it SEO optimized and how it did it. And then it'll also give you instructions on what to do with, the images for like how to name the images, different metadata for the pages, or like the organization for like headers and subheaders and text and everything. So it's not, replacing SEO agencies yet, but it's definitely has made it possible for, a one-man show to do an SEO, to do SEO instead of needing a bunch of, whole team for it. Can you put images and prompts? Upload with text. You can put in images and tell it to describe it. I haven't played around too much with that, but on the demos with ChatGPT I've seen, I don't think it's out to the public yet, but you can enable your camera on your phone or on your computer, and you can point to something, and you can say, what's this? Or you can, have a video of yourself and say, where am I? And it can tell you these things. Do you find it helpful to add your helpful assistant into the prompts? I haven't noticed a difference in telling it it's a helpful assistant or telling it it's an expert at something. I would definitely be curious, but the way that it's the best way to kind of understand it is the more context you can give it, the better. So if I were to ask it, what are the top 10 things you would find at a store? And I did this right before this. It's going to say milk, bread, eggs, but then I say, what are the top 10 things you're going to find at a hardware store? And then that answer is going to be much different than just store. So that's just like a very broad example of how you can add more context to the prompt to get more specific answers. And that's kind of, related to other industries and everything. But that grocery store one was one that really just helped me kind of understand the purpose of context within it. Because you could just say, tell me or do this for me or tell me this, but by giving it a role, that's going to get you the more specific output. And then do you find it helpful to add multiple inputs for a prompt instead of one full one? I haven't noticed too much of a difference. When I usually add more stuff, it's because the output isn't exactly what I wanted it to be. This guy, so the GIF stops playing. When the output isn't what I need it to be, that's when I start adding more stuff, but I try and make it as concise as I can in the original prompt. And prompts can be, as short as one sentence to an essay. Like you can say, this is what I want from you. I want you to first do this. And I want you to give me this output. And then I want you to do this and this and this. And that can all be in one prompt, and that could be great. That's just, a whole other webinar on the advanced prompt engineering. You can, if you have custom GPTs, you can have them talk to each other within ChatGPT, which is pretty cool. You can, when you're on here, you can tag one of your custom GPTs you use and have them talk to each other, which is a pretty cool tool that they have now. And I think that might have been it for the questions. Where did my chat go? Here we go. So yeah, that's it for the questions. That's it on my end. Where's my screen? Here we go. What do I have next? And yeah, thanks everyone. My email, zach@centerdigital.com. Please reach out if you have any questions about this or just ChatGPT or automations or AI in general, or if you have any feedback about the webinar. This is my first one, so definitely strange just talking to myself with no other people on here, but I appreciate everyone being here, and yeah, hope to talk to everyone soon, and I hope this was helpful. Thanks so much, everyone.